This is concerning, isn't it? Because we don't know quite... When we say they're consuming news on TikTok, we don't know if it's actual news or just, I don't know, gossip.
Yeah, exactly. Because the problem with getting on news from something like social media is not everything you're going to read is going to be necessarily trustworthy. And this is something I go into schools and speak to young people about all the time. You know, we must question everything that we see and read online. Because a lot of what we see online is opinion rather than fact.
And what I've noticed...
So we have to teach our children to think critically.
What I've noticed scrolling through my TikTok is a lot of the time when news comes up, news of the day, it's not from a journalist or a news organisation. It's just from anybody off the street. It's just from an influencer who is taking information, has put a nice graphic on it or something, and then putting it out to their audience, which can sometimes reach millions of followers.
Exactly. You know, anyone can write anything on TikTok in a matter of seconds, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be the truth. So we must get our children to think critically when they're reading news or anything online, especially on something like TikTok. So we have to get them to think about, you know, in terms of news, it's getting them to question things like, you know, asking questions, you know, who wrote this? Who is the author? You know, have they got any credentials? When was it written? Is it current? And, you know, what's the purpose of the news? What are they trying to do? Are they trying to inform, to entertain, to persuade, sell you something? So we have to get our children to really think, you know, critically when they're online.
And I would agree with you wholeheartedly, but there's an issue with all of these apps, actually. Maybe TikTok's one of the worst, and it's that dreaded word algorithm, isn't it? Because whatever children or anyone watching on these sort of things, you get sucked into an echo chamber of all the same sort of views, and it can really influence you, can't it, in a way which I would suggest is very unhealthy.
Absolutely. And the TikTok algorithm is particularly powerful. And the way it works in terms of news is it's going to deliver you news that it thinks you're going to like to read, you know, based on how you've interacted on TikTok in the past. So you're going to get a news which is perhaps, you know, limited and less balanced. Exactly. So that's a problem. And also with TikTok, you know, it's a short form video content social media app. So therefore the news you're going to get is going to be a kind of a snippet, a short form video. It could be anything from 30 seconds to 3 minutes. And that's not an awful lot of time. So you're going to get a limited amount of news. And it's not like other social media apps, let's say Twitter, where you can click a link and then kind of read that story in more detail. There is no way to you'll see a snippet of news and there's no way to read on that in more detail.